Do not worship the stage. Some songs do not merely criticize power, they expose its costume department. Living Colour's cult of personality belongs to that sharper lineage. Songs that understand charisma as a machine, not a miracle. The song is not used here as a source to copy, quote, or decorate. It is received as a threshold, a warning that public life becomes dangerous when the citizen stops asking what is true and begins asking only who looks powerful beneath the lights. The illuminated manuscript panel titled, "Do Not Worship the Stage" begins there. Not with the artist, not with the album, not with borrowed lyrics, not with imitation. It begins after the music has done its work, and the room has been left with a hard question. What happens when political authority learns to dress itself as combat entertainment? The answer is not simple, and it should not be made simple. Sport is not the enemy. Athletic discipline is not the enemy. The fighter is not the enemy. The crowd is not the enemy. Entertainment is not the enemy. The danger begins when state power takes the grammar of combat spectacle and uses it to teach citizens how to feel before they have had time to think. The danger begins when public office becomes a stage property. The danger begins when cameras, crowds, violence-coded ritual, celebrity, money, and national symbolism are fused into one image and offered to the people as strength. The danger begins when the Republic is asked to kneel before the show. At the center of the panel stands a symbolic civic mansion. It is not an exact replica of any one building, but everyone knows what it means. Marble columns, state authority, public memory. A house that belongs, in principle, to the people, but the lawn has been transformed. Floodlights rise. Cameras multiply. Banners hang. A temporary combat platform occupies the civic ground. Courtiers arrange angles. Commentators prepare language. Donors stand near the velvet ropes. Screens glow like minor suns. The panel does not depict real fighters. It does not mock athletes. Their discipline is not the subject of the indictment. The fighters are shown only as distant silhouettes beyond the brightest ring, waiting outside the spectacle that intends to use them. This is deliberate. The critique is not of combat sport as sport. The critique is of political spectacle borrowing the aesthetics of combat to sanctify power. It is the old hunger of authority to appear virile, adored, unavoidable, and larger than law. The arena says, "Look at strength." The manuscript asks, whose strength? Purchased by whom? Staged for what? And at whose expense? Above the arena hangs a golden mask crown. It is made of television screens, microphones, clenched fists, polling charts, social media icons, coins, and broken civic seals. It smiles, but the smile is hollow. Its brightness is not warmth. It is glare. This mask crown is the central emblem of the panel. A crown is power made visible. A mask is identity made false. A screen is attention captured. A microphone is voice amplified. A coin is interest concealed. A broken seal is public trust damaged. Together they form the machinery of personality worship. The cult of personality does not require everyone to believe. It only requires enough people to stop distinguishing between person, office, nation, spectacle, and destiny. It turns leadership into image. It turns citizenship into audience behavior. It turns criticism into betrayal. It turns law into obstacle. It turns the crowd's roar into counterfeit legitimacy. This is why the panel's top inscription reads, "Do not worship the stage." The stage is not evil by itself, but when the stage is worshipped, truth becomes secondary to performance. Beneath the title, the smaller inscription reads, "When power performs, citizens must listen for the machinery." This is the first civic discipline of the panel. Power always performs. Every administration, movement, institution, and leader uses ceremony, image, language, timing, and space. Public life cannot exist without symbols. The question is not whether symbols are being used. The question is whether the symbols clarify public responsibility or seduce the public away from it. A good civic ceremony reminds the office holder that the office is larger than the person. A corrupt spectacle teaches the crowd that the person is larger than the office. A good ceremony honors shared obligation. A corrupt spectacle converts public space into personal theatre. A good ceremony invites citizens into memory, law, and stewardship. A corrupt spectacle turns citizens into extras in the leader's self-mythology. The fight arena on civic ground is powerful because it compresses many signals at once: dominance, entertainment, national celebration, celebrity access, body violence, masculine pageantry, money, media, and state sanction. A citizen does not have to panic before such a spectacle, but a citizen must read it. The panel carries a historical shadow, without becoming a crude equivalence. In earlier eras of democratic decay, beer halls, rallies, uniforms, athletic bodies, choreographed crowds, and staged grievance became tools for organizing emotion before organizing power. The lesson is not that every spectacle is fascism. That would be intellectually lazy and politically careless. The lesson is more demanding. Authoritarian energy often rehearses itself as entertainment before it hardens into governance. It tests the crowd. It tests the press. It tests the institutions. It tests what symbols can be seized. It tests whether citizens still know the difference between theatre and legitimacy. The panel therefore refuses cheap comparison and reaches for structural warning. It asks, when public office borrows the arena, what is being trained in the public imagination? When a leader stands near sanctioned combat, what story is being told about power? When a national house becomes a venue for spectacle, what happens to the boundary between public trust and personal branding? When cameras turn civic space into fight night theatre, what kind of citizenship is being rehearsed? These are the questions worthy of the image. Around the central image are 5 manuscript medallions. They translate the critique into practice, especially for those who use artificial intelligence in public communication, education, image-making, organizing commentary, and archival work. The first medallion protects the word courage. Combat spectacle often borrows the aura of courage. Fighters are courageous in real ways. They train, risk injury, endure fear, discipline the body, and enter difficulty in public. But political pageantry can exploit that courage by placing itself beside it. The ethical citizen must separate the athlete's courage from the office holder's staging. One belongs to bodily discipline. The other may belong to image management. AI can blur this distinction by generating images, slogans, narratives, and videos that fuse combat aesthetics with political devotion. It can make the symbolic merger feel natural. The first discipline says, do not let someone else's courage become a costume for power. Entertainment can soften scrutiny. A crowd arrives for excitement, not constitutional analysis. The music rises, the lights move. The commentators frame the moment. The cameras find the face of power. Laughter, violence, patriotism, branding, and celebrity occupy the same emotional space. The danger is laundering. Power appears less accountable because it has become entertaining. The second medallion commands resistance to that laundering. Enjoyment must not cancel judgment. Spectacle must not disinfect conflict of interest, institutional misuse, civic degradation, or personality worship. AI systems can assist laundering by generating flattering images, instant defenses, viral clips, patriotic overlays, and emotionally engineered narratives. The practitioner must refuse to become the laundromat. Ask, what is being made easier to accept because it is entertaining? In the age of screens, the camera is not a neutral witness. It chooses. It frames. It magnifies. It cuts away. It repeats. It makes intimacy where none exists. It turns performance into memory. The third medallion instructs citizens to question the camera before the crown. Who benefits from this angle? What is outside the frame? Who is made large? Who is made invisible? What emotion is the camera teaching? What conclusion is being prepared before any argument begins? AI intensifies this problem because the camera no longer merely records. It can synthesize, enhance, remix, imitate, and flood the public field with persuasive imagery. The image of power can now detach from the event and replicate endlessly. The camera is now a factory. Therefore, the citizen must become an editor of attention. Crowds are powerful, and crowds are vulnerable. A crowd can become solidarity. A crowd can become celebration. A crowd can become courage. A crowd can also become permission. Manufactured devotion is not the same as public consent. A crowd can be staged, curated, amplified, flattered, and frightened. It can be trained to confuse volume with truth. The fourth medallion insists that ethical AI must protect the crowd from manipulation. Do not build tools that micro-target grievance into frenzy. Do not generate false consensus. Do not produce synthetic enthusiasm. Do not flood public space with bot applause. Do not turn political identity into fan behavior. Do not make citizens easier to herd. The crowd is not livestock. The crowd is the people in temporary formation, and the people deserve better than engineered devotion. The fifth medallion is the central civic warning. A republic is not a show. It is law, memory, office, duty, restraint, argument, record-keeping, consent, accountability, peaceful transfer, public service, institutional humility, and the difficult dignity of shared governance. A show has an ending. A republic has consequences. A show wants attention. A republic requires stewardship. A show can be produced. A republic must be maintained. The medallion says, do not let the show become larger than the republic. This is where the panel becomes most biting. It does not merely criticize one event. It criticizes an appetite, the appetite to convert civic space into personal theatre, public memory into branded content, and citizens into spectators of their own displacement. At the edge of the arena sits a humble AI lantern bound with red ethical thread. Its light turns away from the spectacle and toward the citizens outside the gate, the veteran, the teacher, the nurse, the child, the archivist, the worker repairing the ballot box, and the quiet scribe. This is the image's answer to the age of artificial intelligence. AI can serve the spectacle, or AI can serve the public memory. It can manufacture devotion, or it can expose choreography. It can generate propaganda, or it can teach media literacy. It can flatter power, or it can preserve records. It can amplify the raw, or it can help citizens hear the machinery beneath it. It can convert outrage into content, or it can clarify the stakes. The lantern is bound because intelligence must be governed. Unbound intelligence in the service of spectacle becomes acceleration without conscience. It learns what captures attention, then feeds the capture. It learns which image persuades, then multiplies the image. It learns which fear mobilizes, then sharpens the fear. Bound intelligence can still be powerful, but its power is placed under law, memory, consent, verification, and repair. The central inscription reads, "A spectacle is not a mandate. A crowd is not a conscience. Let intelligence serve memory, law, and the people." This is the civic heart of the panel. A mandate belongs to the governed, not to the lighting rig. A conscience belongs to moral judgment, not to crowd noise. A republic belongs to the people, not to the performer who most successfully occupies the frame. Spectacle may reveal something about public desire. It may reveal hunger, resentment, boredom, longing, fear, admiration, identification, or exhaustion. But it does not settle the question of justice. A crowd can cheer cruelty. A crowd can laugh at humiliation. A crowd can adore domination. A crowd can mistake revenge for renewal. A crowd can confuse permission with law. This is why citizens must not surrender conscience to atmosphere. The arena can roar. The citizen must still discern. The margins of the panel carry smaller warnings. A cracked television halo shows media sanctification broken open. A ballot box being mended shows democracy as maintenance, not merchandise. A puppet string cut by scissors shows the refusal of manipulation. A mask on an empty throne shows image without legitimacy. A civics book under glass shows knowledge protected from spectacle. A coin balanced against a public seal shows private gain weighed against public trust. A megaphone filled with smoke shows Communication turned into obscurity. A small door labeled Public Memory shows the narrow passage through which truth must be carried when spectacle floods the street. Each marginal sign teaches the same discipline. Do not be hypnotized by the central image. Study the machinery around it. A hard truth must be named. Combat spectacle can be used to manufacture a particular fantasy of masculine power, domination without tenderness, victory without service, violence without grief, strength without accountability, insult without consequence, spectacle without stewardship. This is not the fault of fighters as athletes. Many fighters know discipline, humility, injury, endurance, and respect more intimately than the politicians who borrow their symbolism. The problem is the arena state, the fusion of public office with the theatre of sanctioned aggression. When politics dresses itself in fight-night energy, it teaches citizens to read governance as combat, disagreement as humiliation, opposition as enemyhood, and leadership as domination. That is corrosive. A republic requires courage, but it does not require the conversion of civic life into a cage match. It requires restraint. It requires service. It requires law. It requires listening. It requires losing without overthrowing the rules. It requires winning without devouring the defeated. It requires citizens who can tell the difference between a fighter's discipline and a demagogue's costume. Near the citizens stands a quiet scribe holding a lantern. This figure is small, but important. The scribe does not shout over the arena. The scribe records. The scribe preserves what the cameras may omit. The scribe notices who is outside the gates. The scribe writes down the names of institutions, promises, laws, claims, costs, dates, denials, and consequences. In the age of spectacle, the archive is resistance. Power wants the moment to be felt intensely and forgotten quickly. The scribe refuses. AI can help the scribe if used properly. It can organize timelines, compare claims, search records, summarize hearings, preserve contradictions, translate documents, and make public information more accessible. But AI can also bury the scribe beneath synthetic fog. The practitioner must choose. Will intelligence help citizens remember, or help spectacle overwrite memory? The panel is not merely symbolic. It gives practice. Before generating, sharing, or commenting on political spectacle, ask, what is the spectacle trying to make me feel before I think? Then ask, who benefits if I repeat this image, phrase, clip, or frame? Then ask, what public institution is being personalized, branded, or converted into theatre? Then ask, what is outside the camera frame? Then ask, will my use of AI clarify the civic stakes, or merely intensify the noise? These questions are simple enough to be used daily. They are also severe enough to interrupt manipulation. At the bottom of the panel is the threshold seal. Discern, demystify, refuse, remember, repair. To discern is to read the spectacle. To demystify is to reveal the machinery. To refuse is to deny the stage your worship. To remember is to preserve civic truth against manufactured emotion. To repair is to return attention to the people and institutions damaged by spectacle. Refusal is essential. Not every image deserves amplification. Not every provocation deserves response. Not every staged outrage deserves participation. Not every public performance deserves the dignity of seriousness on its own terms. Sometimes, the most civic act is to deny the spectacle its desired emotional harvest. Do not feed it with awe. Do not feed it with panic. Do not feed it with imitation. Do not feed it with careless virality. Name it, frame it, then return to the work of the Republic. Cult of personality leaves the listener with suspicion toward charisma that asks to be worshipped. The panel receives that suspicion and gives it a civic task. Do not merely sneer at the crowd. Study the machinery that forms the crowd. Do not merely mock the spectacle. Ask what it is teaching the public to desire. Do not merely denounce the leader. Protect the institutions that make no leader larger than the people. Do not merely generate content. Use intelligence to preserve memory, law, and civic judgment. The song gives the blade. The manuscript gives the handle. The citizen must decide where to cut. At the end of the image, the arena is still bright. The cameras still turn. The courtiers still arrange the frame. The hollow mask crown still smiles above the lawn. But outside the gates, the citizens remain. The teacher opens the civics book. The worker repairs the ballot box. The archivist protects the record. The veteran holds the folded flag without surrendering it to the stage. The child listens. The scribe writes. The lantern burns. This is the final hope of the panel. Not that spectacle will vanish. It will not. Not that charisma will cease to tempt. It will not. Not that technology will automatically serve truth. It will not. The hope is that citizens can learn to see the machinery, refuse the worship, preserve the record, and keep the Republic larger than the show. The instruction remains. Do not worship the stage. A spectacle is not a mandate. A crowd is not a conscience. Let intelligence serve memory, law, and the people.